picture of Big Ben, and he's like, "Oh, look, a clock. We don't have that in America." And welcome back to latest and greatest episode of the Shaving Points podcast. My name is Jayden May, and tonight I'm joined by my co-host Quentin Crisco, as always, and also special guest Chris Rains to break down the NBA playoffs. How we doing tonight, boys?
Doing great, man.
Doing good, man. So my name is Quentin Crisco. You can find me on Twitter at BucketStats. Make sure to go check out the podcast Twitter account at shaving_points. That's PTS_pod. And as always, you can find us at the website www.shaving-points.com.
Awesome.
Yes, sir. Joined tonight by our expert Chris Rains, who I don't think does social media.
I don't. I keep it easy, man. Keep it simple.
Hey, nothing wrong with keeping it simple, but we're gonna be breaking down NBA playoffs tonight. We're in the quarterfinals right now for conference playoffs, about to go into, or semifinals for conference playoffs, about to go into the conference finals. So we're gonna be breaking down all 8 teams, and we got some 3-1 leads. We got some series tied. We have a 3-2 series. So hopefully we'll get some game 7s going into conference finals, and maybe get some chaos. Talk some Jimmy Butler, Jimmy B. B stands for buckets, as we all know. So
It's actually Jimmy G buckets, and the G stands for gets.
Gets.
Yep.
There we go. Doesn't forget how to get buckets. That's for sure.
But we're gonna toss it over to Chris here. We wanted to start off with just some of the in-season tournament talk that's been coming up with the NBA. So, I don't follow the NBA as closely as I used to, and I've just seen like bits and pieces of this on Twitter.
Yeah.
But Chris, what are they trying to do with this?
So, Adam Silver is trying to make it so that the league has better ratings, and so there's more interest in these teams and players to play in the regular season games. So you're going to have an in-season tournament starting next year. It's slated to be starting in November and ending in December. And the way it's working out, in-season tournaments, so they're going to play these games, but they're not going to be in addition to their regular season games. They're going to play 82 games, except for whoever the 2 teams are that are in the championship out of this. They'll play 1 extra game, but the rest of the regular season will run as scheduled. There will be no stoppage for it, like there is for the All-Star break, for instance. And reportedly, the winning team will get $500,000 per player. So that's one thing they're trying to do to kind of draw more interest, get these guys more engaged in the regular season. I got a couple ideas of what they can do to maybe make it so that the regular season means more, but want to see what you guys think about the regular season or the in-season tournament, and if you guys are yay.
So as far as the in-season tournament goes, I think it'd be really cool if they said the winning team gets home court throughout the playoffs regardless of seed. That would be sweet, because then you have to have a good record up to that point, and then after that's over, there's only 3 months left of the season anyway. So then if you win, if you wanted to rest, you could at that point, but it keeps early season, because NBA doesn't have a problem with ratings the last 30 games of the season. They have a problem with ratings at the beginning of the season, competing with playoff baseball, competing with football playoffs, all that. So if they can ramp up the excitement, then maybe award you get a lottery ball. So you get a lottery ball as one of the top teams in the league. So then you go from saying oh, it doesn't matter, we're going to make the playoffs. We can make the playoffs as a 7 seed and still make a run. So basically what the Lakers did this year with LeBron, and now they're making a good run in the playoffs. They were as long as we get in, we have a chance type deal, to where if they're you win this, you get a lottery ball. So you can make the playoffs, be a playoff team, and still get a chance to get a premier talent in the draft. I think that would be really cool as well. What are your thoughts, Q?
I like the lottery ball idea. I like that a lot, because it's you get so many teams on the edge of the playoffs who are should we just go in the lottery? Should we really try to be an 8 seed or get in a playing game? I think the lottery ball solves a lot of that.
Chicago Bulls basically did that this year.
Yeah.
And they still almost got in.
Yeah.
But I mean, all like my first thought when you say the 500 grand per player is like that's incentive. It's like, that's a lot of money still, but like
For the
these guys
lower
are paying
guys,
50% taxes on this stuff, and like it doesn't end up being that much incentive to them. Like something like home court, like you said, I think that's a lot more incentive than the 250 grand they'd walk away from.
you have to think about it like good mid to good talent in the NBA garners 25 million a year. Like
Yeah.
you have guys that would be considered league average making ridiculous money to where, I mean, $500,000 a year is not going to mean much for a max guy, and most teams have one or two max guys. So I mean, yeah, for the guys who are maybe 4 through 8 on the team, that they could use that money. But if their premier talent's not showing up and showing out, like what does it really matter?
Well, and
Like
how much would
like look at the Clippers, for instance, with Kawhi Leonard, Chris Paul, like all these guys who are notorious for load management and stuff like that. It's like, is $500,000 gonna make Kawhi Leonard be like, hey, we're gonna play you 35 out of the first 40 games? Like, no, that ain't gonna happen.
you
Like,
know what might get Kawhi though? Like you said, the home court advantage. If it's the first half of the season, he's like, I just got to play, win the tournament, and then clinch the playoffs, and I can rest the rest of the way till the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then the
That
second half,
sounds appealing.
and then the second half still matters for a lot of teams because they're chasing
Yeah.
for that seeding at the end. So I think it's
Yeah.
good that they're doing it towards the end of the first half, if that makes sense, in the season, so that it kind of gets some interest.
yeah, and I think
Yeah.
the timing of it is good. But okay, so you said that. So you said the tournament starts in November.
Yeah, it starts in
And-
November.
but it takes already scheduled league games.
So,
So is it just like whoever has the best record from like November to December in both conferences
and I honestly
are
am not
just play
sure
against
how,
each other?
I'm not sure exactly how they do the weeding out process of it. If they go off the best record between it and then say these two teams have the best record or whatever, but they play the regular season games as they normally would, and then by the time December comes, they figure out who the top two are somehow, and they play it out, and then they just have one extra. Those two teams have one extra game, so
Okay.
those two teams have 83 games. But everyone else is at 82, and it's just like the regular schedule. How they weed it out, I honestly do not know.
Do you
Exactly.
know if we could possibly get 2 Western Conference teams or 2 Eastern Conference teams, or do you know if it's guaranteed 1 East, 1 West in the one game winner take all event?
I'd assume East and West, but because it's always been the way they've done it. Because I thought for a long time it'd be cool if they did the seedings for the playoffs 1 through 16, regardless of East and West,
That's been a big
because
point of contention for a long time.
you would have a true NBA Finals where you would have the two best teams. Like we talked about before we went on air, how many times did the Spurs and the Lakers in the early 2000s meet up with each other in the Western
Yeah,
Conference
Spurs, Suns, Lakers, Suns, like
Mhm. And you're like, this is, and then you have the
those
Nets in the
teams.
finals, and you're like, come on,
yeah.
they don't stand
Nets,
snowflakes chance in hell.
I mean, you had the Pistons make their little run. The 76ers had their run, but I mean, for the most part, and then for the longest time, basically LeBron's entire career, the East was so weak that it's like, who is LeBron going to play? The Warriors? Is he going to play the Spurs? Is he going to play the Lakers? Is he going to play the Mavericks?
Yep.
Like there's 4 to 6 teams he could play in the West, but like LeBron's going to be there because the East is so weak.
Yeah.
Excuse me. There were 2 wonderful years of Derrick Rose in there.
Technically,
I don't like to talk about because I think of the injury.
yeah. But in those years, you could have the Cavs playing a very frisky Memphis team that caused a lot of problems for a lot of people in the West.
Yeah.
Early in I think they knocked out the Mavericks when the Mavericks were a 1 seed. Dirk and the Mavericks knocked off the Spurs when the Spurs were a 1 seed one year against an 8. Like you have that 8 seeded Mavericks team or the 8 seeded Memphis team, or even early in Steph's Steph's career when Golden State was making the playoffs as a 5 or a 6 seed in the West, like, and all of a sudden the Cavs or the Heat are having to, like, they probably still win, they probably still move on, but they're going to struggle with them a lot more than they're struggling with a Nets team that has a 64-year-old like
Vince Carter.
Vince Carter out there, like, as an 8 seed trying to put up 35 a game, like,
and he wasn't there, but yeah, it would be, they need to shake things up. Other things, and I love the idea of with that play-in, you get home court advantage and maybe a lottery ball or something along that,
both.
because along those lines, other changes that I was thinking, or some changes that I think that would be cool, is if you had the same odds of getting the number 1 pick, regardless of where you are when you miss the playoffs. Because, like, you look at Utah, Danny Ainge.
Yeah, but I think that's counterproductive, because then you would have situations where, let's say you're in the mix, like, especially with the play-in tournament and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you're in that 6 to 10 range.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, we know we're not going to win the championship, and then the last 30 games of the season, you just don't do anything, because you're like, we have the same odds of getting the number 1 overall pick, whether we play January through May or not. Like,
yeah, I think what we'll do, and it goes both ways, because you got the teams that are taking hardcore, like Utah. They got rid of Donovan Mitchell. They got rid of Rudy Gobert. They were in full tank mode with Danny Ainge, and they're incentivized to keep losing, because the more you lose, the higher your chances go up. So you would eliminate that. But the other side, you got the fringe teams that, do we want to go in the play-in or not? I think because you can't get both. You got to pick, do you want to take care of those really low teams that keep driving the numbers up? I think
especially with the play-in tournament, like, the play-in tournament is another thing that I would be fine with it going by the wayside. But I mean, hey, we have the Heat probably about to make the Eastern Conference Finals as a play-in team, so who knows? Because they were the 9 seed or the 10 seed coming in.
Miami Heat were they
weren't top 8. I know that
they were the 8th seed.
They were
the 8th seed. Yep.
I thought they were 9 or 10.
They were the 8th seed.
You're probably right.
Because they got Milwaukee.
9 or 10.
Was that?
The Bulls were 9 or 10.
Well, they got Milwaukee in the first round because they were the 8th seed after they won the play-in tournament.
Well, yeah, that probably changed it. Yes,
I thought they were 9 or 10 because I thought they were the first team to, or I guess they were the first play-in team in general to win a series. But I think they would have missed. I think they would have missed the playoffs if it was just standard 1 through 8.
See, I'd be good with them getting rid of the play-in too, because I think these owners want their teams to make the playoffs, because when you get the playoffs, you're guaranteed 2 home games. That's a lot of revenue. That's a lot of revenue for these guys coming on in. It's a lot of ratings, merchandise. So I think if you could eliminate the play-in, and then it's really polarizing. Either you have the same odds as everyone else, if you miss the playoffs of getting the number 1 pick, or you can be in the playoffs. And I think teams, if you ask most of these guys, they're competitors. They're going to want to get an 8 or 7 seed and be in the playoffs, as opposed to, hey, let's go home and hope that lottery ball bounces our way.
I think the same odds for everybody hurts the league more than what it's at right now, because, I mean, I don't see a problem with tanking, because even if you have the worst record in the league, what is it, a 13% chance that you get the number 1 overall pick? It's not great. So, I mean, even because with the lottery, like, so the NFL, for instance, it's completely differently. Like, you can't take in the NFL; it's too violent of a sport.
Yeah,
guys, the contracts are shorter. Everybody's playing for their job. Like, so nobody's just going to go out there and be like, "Hey, we'll get them next year." You have a second year guy. He's going to go out there and give it his all, because he knows that, like, everything I put on film is going to possibly be a bag in the future. Where in the NBA, you can be a top talent and the coach is just like, oh, we're going to sit you. Like, we know you're good. Don't worry about it. You'll be back next year. But at the same time, like, if it's 1 or 2 teams in the NBA a year that are doing everything they can to lose, like, who cares if the rest of the product is good compared to maybe you have a feisty team. Like I don't think Spoelstra would ever tank, but I mean, let's say the Bulls made a run. Like, I mean, they got a squad this year, and they basically gave up at the end of the season, still made the play-in tournament, and probably should have beat the Heat in that play-in game, and who knows what would have happened against Milwaukee. I mean, DeMar DeRozan was super hot going in those playoffs. I mean, they could have made a run, and they had all but given up at the end of the season, and then they won their they play Atlanta the first game that they won?
Yep.
And then they played the Heat the second game.
Yep.
But yeah, it's like if it wasn't for the play-in tournament, they probably would have just given up on the season, and they still get their lottery pick on top of all of that. So I mean, it ended up working out for them still. But with the Giannis injury and everything, like they could have been frisky, and who's to say that they wouldn't be able to stay in this series against the Knicks right now? It's like,
well, the problem the Bulls have had is Lonzo Ball. You know, his injuries debilitated them because Alex Caruso is a feisty defender. In fact, I think he made first team All D today. He did. And he's a good passer, but he's not a natural creator like Lonzo Ball is. And DeMar DeRozan, for all intents and purposes, is an ISO player. And you got Levine. He's a high volume 3-point shooter, and sometimes
I'm not singling the Bulls out, but I'm saying, like, if it wasn't for the play-in tournament, and so let's say you take away the play-in tournament and you say every single lottery team has the exact same odds of number one, like they would have tried less than they already tried. Like at the end of the season, like they gave up at the end of the season and almost still made a run. Like they would have just completely quit because they would have just been like, we have nothing to play for, and like you're telling me we can lose our last 5 games and have as good of a chance at the number 1 overall pick as the Utah Jazz? Like, we will put a G team out there for all we care at the end of the season. Like,
I'm for the play-in tournament just being thrown out, but
speaking of that though, you mentioned pre-show that you had some other thoughts on what the NBA could try to do to make this more competitive or interesting in the regular season. So what were your thoughts around that?
I think that the winning teams of the regular season need to be rewarded more handsomely than what they are. I
agree with that too.
Best record of each conference, I think it should be you pick your opponent. So if you're the 1 seed in the West and 1 seed in the East, you pick out of 5 through 8 who you want in the first round. Get second picks.
I think a playoff draft would be sick.
Yeah.
It's like, and it doesn't have to be East or West. Like, let's say you get seeded 1 through 16. Who had the best record this year, Memphis or Denver?
Denver gave it up. I know that Philadelphia has a better record than Denver because they made in the finals. Philly has home court, but I'm not sure who has.
Who won the most games? Was it Memphis this year?
Memphis had the 2 seed
in the West.
Milwaukee might have had. They had the 1 seed in the East.
Oh yeah, okay. So Milwaukee, I think, would have been the number 1 overall seed, and Milwaukee could have been like, we don't want to deal with Jimmy buckets. Like, we'll just play. They name anybody they could have played. The Knicks, like we'll play the Knicks. We'll play the Cavs. Like we'll play the Kings. Yeah. It'd have been really cool. And then like the next team on the list might have been, and then like everybody would be avoiding the Lakers. Then all of a sudden we have like a 7 versus 8 matchup in a 16 seed tournament where you have the Lakers playing like the Cavs because nobody wanted to play the Cavs, and you have Lakers versus Cavs in the first round. Like that would have been sick.
And the other thing is, so you got the first round 1 seed picks, 2 seed picks, and then I think the second round should also follow through. That you get to pick because there's 4 teams left in each conference.
Oh yeah.
You pick who you want.
If you could pick from anybody, there wouldn't necessarily be 4 from each conference, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but and the other thing I think is then you throw into the variable of injuries. Okay, you maybe don't want the Clippers when they have Kawhi and you got Paul George, but then after they're both injured. It isn't too hard to imagine.
Move on,
now you pick them,
If Giannis goes out and I guess they would still get the first pick if they would have moved on, but maybe they're like, oh, we think we can we think we match up better with this team without Giannis, to where if we had Giannis, maybe we'd pick this team. Like it would impact everything.
And the beauty of an underdog beating them, you picked me, and we just kicked your butt.
Yeah,
I think it really built some animosity.
Especially in the social media era. Like, can you imagine, like, because, like, so the Knicks were the 3 or 4 seed this year in the East. I would imagine that maybe, I don't know, like the Heat were not a good regular season team, so maybe Milwaukee still would have played the Heat in the first round. But after that, like, you got to be looking at like the Knicks or the Cavs, who both had really good seasons. Because like I can't imagine anybody's going to want to play an 8 seed Lakers team, a 7 seed Clippers team, a 6 seed Warriors team, a 2 seed Memphis team, a 3 seed Sacramento Kings. Like,
I don't think anyone in the league is sitting there saying, "Give me Jimmy Butler."
But yeah, at the same time,
he's a weird.
It would be one of the. And can you imagine the team that were like, we want to play Jimmy Butler, and then Jimmy Butler's like,
and then Jimmy Butler's reaction to that, like, "Oh, you chose me."
He'd have a tattoo about it.
Yeah, and, I mean, he Jimmy Butler would get to the stadium like at 5 a.m. that morning, and like print off his own T-shirts at like a print to go T-shirts place, selling T-shirts before the game, being like, "They chose me." He would have like his face right there, and he'd be making $20 a pop in front of the stadium before the game, before he goes and sells all of his teammates like fresh made coffee from his freaking coffee machine that he brought with him. He's selling $5 cups of coffee. Like, dude never stops grinding.
And then to push it even one level further, just throwing it out there, best team in the whole league, best record in the whole league, gets games 1, 2, and 3 at home throughout the playoffs.
So it'd be 3-2-2 like it used to be?
So no, it'd be
3,
3-1, 1-1, and it finishes once.
That's how it used to be, didn't it?
No, it used to be 2 games for the home.
2-3-2.
2-3-2, and then now it is 2-1-1.
1-1. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is give them the extra game early, because you're guaranteed to make it to game 3. And then if you get to game 7, so the way it would work out is instead of it being 4 games for, if it went 7, 4 games for the home team and 3, you're looking at 5 and 2, which is a massive advantage. But that gives you a reason to play the regular season and get the best overall record, because it's a huge advantage.
I do like the aspect of a 5 and 2 for the higher seed, because I mean, it's hard to compare to football, but football's it's a one game, and home field advantage is so massive to where in the NBA, you can have home court advantage, but you still got to win 4. Yeah, you have one bad night and you lose at home, and then it's completely gone. To where in the NFL, where it's a win or go home game, you can play bad in the first quarter. You can play bad in the second quarter. You could be down 17 in the third or the fourth, and Patty Mahomes is out there just bringing it back because he's got them. He's got Arrowhead behind him, man. It's like it's such a vast difference, like having everybody behind you, and it's win or go home. But it's like, how often do we get the full 7 games? Like, usually when a lower seed wins, it's in 5 or 6, and you don't have any rooms for mistakes, or like, let's say somebody like tweaks their hamstring or something and goes out early, and then all of a sudden you drop 1 or 2 home games, then you give up home court immediately, even though you worked your ass off all season to get the 1 seed. And now you're up against the wall against an 8 seed now, because maybe you lost on a buzzer beater game 1. Game 2, somebody gets hurt, and then all of a sudden you're down 2 games going on the road, and you have to win 3 road games essentially to take the series. Like,
but there's just some ideas though to like make these guys want to play the regular season and realize that, hey, this actually will affect my chances of winning an NBA championship, which is what a lot of these guys are chasing, of course. Some guys want the money early, but by the end, they certainly want that ring if they haven't got one yet.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. So now we're kind of getting into real life,
Yeah.
what actually happens, not what we want to happen. So when you're looking at these playoffs, like I know it's kind of we're a little bit later in, we're about to go into conference finals. We have some close series right now, but what are you looking at as far as value for futures or betting or what are you looking at there? Are you looking at player props? Are you looking at value on certain teams as it stands right now? Like, where do you find the best value in betting these NBA playoffs?
So for me, the way I look at bets, I look at the games and I don't look at what Vegas has. I look at the games and who's playing, and I write down what I think it's going to be. And then I look and ask myself, when I compare it, if there's a big difference, I'm like, does what I have make sense? And if I really believe I'm right and I really believe they're wrong and I do my homework, then that's the game I grab. And I think too many people, they look at the odds and they look at the payout and they pick according to that. I think you should look at the game first and see, based on what if it makes sense or not. And this is just how I do things. I don't place my bet until I have to. I don't like betting early because if there's an injury, if there's a family emergency, if there's food poisoning, Michael Jordan, now you've lost your guy and now you're out that money. You probably know because just look at KD. Now you don't want to wait this tight, but in warmups, he twisted his ankle on a layup. Nobody around him. These things can come up last second. So wait until you have to place that bet. I try to remove personal bias from betting. I don't bet on my Chicago Bulls because I know I'm biased. I don't bet against the Packers because I know I'm biased there. And I also have gone the other way. I love my Bulls so much, but I see their faults. So I'm like, I can bet against them because I see their flaws. I can't see it with a clean.
I tried that strategy this year with the Spurs.
Yeah.
And they were really bad. But they were double-digit underdogs so many times where I was like, oh, yeah, like the other team will definitely cover. And these motherfuckers, they stayed in every game.
Yep.
They even won some games outright where they were 25-point dogs.
We're tough on our teams because they're so attached to it, so it means more.
It's too much of an emotional hedge.
Yeah.
Like you're too invested of like these guys suck. They can't possibly cover this.
It wasn't even like they suck. It's like I know the talent of the team. Like I was like, man, Josh Primo's good. Like all these guys are good, but I was like, man, they're giving up like 18 points. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, they should definitely cover 18 points. But I was like, 18 points. I was like, if that's the spread, they're not going to cover it because like Vegas is smarter than me. And I was like, I'll take the Nuggets minus 18, and the Spurs go out there and win outright. And I'm like, what are we doing here, guys? Like I thought it was Victor Wembanyama season. Y'all are here winning games against a 1 seed at 72 games into the season. Like, come on now.
I also don't bet on big rivalry games. Brings out the best in both teams, and I don't want the team I'm betting against at their best. I don't want it. I avoid the flamethrowers. And what I mean by that is like in football, I'm not betting like back in the day. I wouldn't bet against Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees. NBA, I'm not betting against Giannis, Jokic. I'm not betting against Embiid because at any night, those guys can drop 45 to 55 and make you sick to your stomach because you bet against one of the top 5 players in the league. So I avoid them like the plague.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, go ahead.
Know which coaches and players do load management a lot and kind of be set for that, especially at the end of the season. Like you wouldn't want to bet against.
I stopped modeling.
Yep, you will.
I stopped modeling NBA because of that.
Yeah.
Like it was too much to keep up with. It was too much of a pain. I was just like, I'm done.
And a lot of times you wouldn't even get the setting out for load management until 8 hours before tip off.
Yep.
And I ran this model last night.
And that's why you want to wait till the last second to bet because it'll all come in at the last second because they decide they're just going to be tricky. Oh, all of a sudden he's got a little bit of a tweaked ankle. Thanks. Now my bet just went down the toilet. There's 1,230 total NBA games in a regular season. Be choosy with when you bet. Make sure the games actually mean something. Ideally, to me, you wait to the last quarter of the season and you want to kind of find that perfect scenario, that perfect storm. Find a team that's on a back-to-back, that's on the road, that's already eliminated from the playoffs, playing the home team that is chasing a playoff spot. That's exactly what because home court in the NBA is massive. The home court team in the NBA is winning in the regular season about 60% of the time. So you want the home team. I don't bet if it's not on their home court. That's not the team I bet. So if I could love the matchup, I can love everything, but if it's on the road, I forget it, and I live to see another day. I bet when they're back at home. Pick a team that's desperate, a good team that's desperate, and at home. For instance, and I forget the number exactly, but like if you can pick a team that's home court, they lose game one. Now they're down one game. They're at home.
Warriors.
Higher seed, so they should win. Yep. Statistically, you have really good odds of winning that game because, how fast are you going to run when a bear is 500 feet from you? Now, how fast are you going to run when it's 15 feet from you? You want them motivated to move. You want them down in a hole. So that's what I pick. And win. That's my tip for betting is win. People, I think, chase the big returns. They get too fancy and they chase trifectas and all these sexy little schemes and stuff. Win. There's nothing wrong with picking money line and just picking the team that's going to win. And if you want to do the spread, don't be afraid to buy some points. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's real simple. Either you won money or you didn't. So you can chase, that big payout. But if you lose, it doesn't really matter that you could have got all that money. It's better to be slow and steady, even though it's boring and not sexy, and be that turtle and win the race than to go nuts. But home court in the NBA is what I would say. Bet the home court games. Make sure that your guys are healthy. And look at their prior games. If it's regular season, make sure they haven't had a heavy load on the schedule. Hopefully their team does. And make sure that they have a reason, a good why to play. And if the other team doesn't have a good reason to get the win, then, you got a good game to play on.
Absolutely. No, I agree with that 100%. So looking at these NBA playoffs right now, I'm going to go through all the series real quick and go through where we're standing right now. And then you can let me know who you like going forward, maybe some good value plays, maybe some teams that are down in series or potential matchups, stuff like that going forward. So we have Knicks Heat right now. Heat are up 3-1 on the Knicks. You have the Lakers up 3-1 on the Warriors. You have the 76ers that won tonight that won at 3-2 on the Celtics. And then you have Suns Nuggets playing right now at a 2-2 series that I'm guessing is going to go to 7. And that's a 50-52 game right now. So out of those teams right now, Suns Nuggets, 76ers, Celtics, Knicks, Heat, Warriors, Lakers. Are there any of these teams right now that maybe don't look like they're going to, like maybe a Warriors team that's down 3-1 or a Knicks team that's down 3-1 or even a Celtics team that's down 3-2 that you could see some value in whenever these lines open up tomorrow morning on championship odds, on winning the conference odds, or even just straight up just getting out of this round that are in a hole right now, or maybe some of these teams like the Heat, like it. Do you think the Heat's good value right now to like make the NBA Finals? Like, because I would say I don't like the Heat against the Celtics, but you have the 76ers right now with a 3-2 lead, and it's like you're giving me Eric Spoelstra, who might be the best coach in college or in NBA right now, and Jimmy Butler going against a Doc Rivers team with Joel Embiid, who at times seems slow and sluggish and worn out, and a James Harden that sometimes just seems like he doesn't care and historically can't get it done. Like, the Heat right now is an 8 seed with a 3-1 lead against the Knicks. Looking at the Celtics Sixers series, is it like, man, like Heat right now to make the NBA Finals, like kind of like that value because you're probably getting great value on it.
If you're looking for value, yes. If I'm betting my life on this, the way this all plays out, I'm
We don't bet our
saying,
life.
yeah,
We do responsible gambling. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
yeah.
But we're talking responsible gambling. We look for value. We look for those big returns when we're in the playoffs right now because we can go chalk. But I'm saying if you're looking for the best value, like
Best value.
let's say somebody gives you $10,000 risk free, and they're like, if you don't at least double this, we're taking it all back.
Okay.
But if you lose it all, you lose it all. It doesn't matter. So it's
Well-
like I have to find a way to double this money one way or another, and you're not going to double your money by taking heavy money line or heavy favorite money lines or stuff like this. You got to chase a rabbit somewhere. What rabbit are you chasing right here?
And I gotta pick. Now, is this to get to the finals or to win the championship?
Any
Just
bet
just
that you
anyway,
might find value
anyway.
in.
Okay.
So you could say like I'll
Just give us a 5-leg parlay for tomorrow night.
You could say I like the Warriors to win the series. Like if you think the Warriors can dig their way out of the series of the Lakers and go back and win 3 in a row, I mean, LeBron already did to Steph. Maybe Steph's like, hey man, I got to do it back to you. Like I'm down 3-1. I'm about to rattle off 3 straight and just leave you at home. Or do you think the Knicks can come back and beat the Heat? Do you think the Heat can make the finals? Do you think is Denver the bet to make right now? To where coming into the finals, they were not like they didn't have the best odds, and now they're in a fight right now with Phoenix. Is now the time to bet Denver to win it all? Is now the time to bet Celtics to win it all? Like
Denver's my favorite to win it all. All out. Yeah, all out.
Even if they lose tonight.
Even if they lose tonight.
Okay,
I like Denver. I like Denver a lot. And you can't. It's tough in the NBA because you'll swing how you feel from game to game, but you got to remember every game is its own entity. And the way I look at it is, I compare 2 things when I compare the teams. I compare their top talent, their top 2 players, and then I compare the rest of their guys. And I think you compare Phoenix and Denver, KD and Booker against Jamal Murray and Jokic, and you can argue it either way. I believe in Denver's supporting cast more than I believe in Phoenix. Chris Paul has the injured groin that forces Cameron Payne to the starting lineup. That gives them one less player coming off the bench for them.
Campaign.
You got Aaron Gordon, who plays like a man for Denver. And you got Michael Porter Jr., who's just forever long and could come into his own anytime. He had, I believe, like around 18 points this season. He's flirting with the idea of eventually becoming an all-star. You got
We've been waiting on Michael Porter Jr. to be an all-star for about 10 years, it feels like.
Well, he couldn't stay healthy, but knock on wood a million times over, he's staying healthy. And they also have Uncle Jeff Green, who's been in the league forever, coming off the bench. They got Bruce Brown, who hustles his butt off. Not much of a shooter, but he'll play defense. And KCP shooting threes. So I like Denver.
Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Okay. Yes. So a lot of things right there.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you some things. Best defense in the league since the trade deadline. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Lonnie Walker. 3-1 lead right now against the Warriors. Probably going to have more rest going up into the series if they win the next game.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't no way I'm taking the Nikola Jokic Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals versus the LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Lonnie motherfucking Walker team.
The Lakers are a deeply flawed team, and please let me tell you why. First of all, they had a lot of additions come in late in the season, and it's tough to get that into. They had Beasley coming off the bench shooting threes because he's going to be their guy. He's kind of faded out. Hachimura was a stud against Golden State early in the series. I didn't see him much last night, and in last night's Lonnie Walker. They don't have a very set rotation of who's coming in off the bench.
You're saying they have a lot of guys that can get it done if they need to in a pinch. I mean, you just named 3 guys, and you still have Anthony Davis and LeBron James. You still have the best defensive team in the league since the trade deadline going against Nikola Jokic.
No, I'm saying
is in the second round of the playoffs.
You don't want
in a battle for his life again after back-to-back MVP seasons. Like,
You don't want to be trying to figure out who your top 7 or 8 guys are in come playoff time, though, is my point. And they're trying to figure it out right now. You should, like, Denver knows that those guys listed off, those are their first, 7 or 8 coming in. The Lakers are trying to figure out what they have right now. You can, AD, first of all, he got exposed in pick and roll against Golden State last night. And you better believe, and the other thing he's been able to do, they played against Memphis. Bigs can't shoot. You played against Golden State. Bigs can't shoot. So he can stay in the paint. They go up against Denver, the Jokic, the big can shoot. That's another way you take him out of the paint. You stop his shot blocking because a big portion of the Lakers defense is dependent on Anthony Davis being a rim protector. And that's tough to do if your guy can shoot a 3 and he's out there. And if Jamal Murray is putting you pick and roll, which I think Denver's going to look at the film and see what Golden State did and said, hey, we got to go attack this way.
So it doesn't matter to you that Denver historically always underachieves in the playoffs and finds ways to lose rather than finds ways to win. And I mean, we could end this podcast. They could be down this series 3-2. Then all of a sudden, Chris Paul comes and gives us 20 minutes next game, and it's just enough to get them by. And then you have a hobbled Chris Paul going against LeBron James, and in the Western Conference Finals. Like, I don't think I've seen enough from this Nuggets team. If I'm taking a team right now, I'm taking probably the Celtics. Like, I think the Celtics can win 2 games versus 76ers.
They can.
And walk into the Eastern Conference Finals and walk through whether they play the Heat or the Knicks and be the heavy favorites for no matter who they play in the NBA Finals. And if it's not them, I'm probably still taking the Sixers over anybody I'm taking in the West. But when I look at the West, like, I'm taking the Suns in this series. I'm taking the Lakers against them, and I'm taking the Warriors if the Warriors can pull off the upset here. I mean, I think Denver might be the third to last team I'm taking after Knicks Heat to win it all right now.
You got to remember, too, how many years did it take before Michael Jordan won his first championship? 8. Now, I'm not saying he's Michael Jordan. I'm saying
who's Michael Jordan on this Denver team? Come on, man, you're a Chicago fan.
No, but
who's Michael Jordan on this team?
But like Jordan said, he told Shaq when he came to the league, you've got to walk before you got to crawl before you walk, and you go through your growing pains. These guys don't, and that's why I like them, because they have gone through growing pains. And Jamal Murray,
because their best player doesn't show up in big time games.
He didn't. What did he just do last night? Joker had 53 points on 20 to 30 shooting in Game 4,
and they lost.
But you said why'd they lose? Because he doesn't show up in big games. He's playing well. Now it's a shootout between what if they can offset KD and Booker, and Denver hasn't come through like they have, and I get it. It's kind of like the football and Charlie Brown. You're pulling away from me. You pull from. I'm not going to try and kick it anymore. You're going to fool me. I'm just saying, if I look at a team constructed, I'm looking at different things I want to check off. I want to check off a big. We check it off. A point guard, Jamal Murray, check. 2 wings, Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr., good length, check. Shooting, KCP. Defense, they check off what a well-rounded team is, and I like that. If I look at Phoenix as a full team, they don't check off as many boxes for me. And that's the difference, I think. They have the same star power at the top, but when I go down, they're not as a complete team. And the other thing is they did add KD in the middle of the season. It's very tough to win a championship. The last team that had that much of a change in the middle of the season that won a championship was the Boston Celtics of KG, Ray Allen, and Rondo. And that's happened before the season started. But to put it all together and win a championship, that's a lot to ask for a brand new team historic.
Okay, so historically speaking, the last team that was like 8 guys deep to make a legit championship run were probably like the 2013 Spurs. Since then, it only takes 5 or 6. And you're getting all the minutes out of all your best guys. You don't need a deep rotation in the era of load management where they're going to the playoffs and maybe they only have 60 games under their belt instead of 82 or 75 instead of 82, and they're able to put in those extra 5 minutes a game to where you're not having to pull the 7th, 8th, 9th guy off your bench. So when you're looking at these matchups, you're like, yeah, Denver's 8 deep. Well, is Denver's 8 deep better than the Lakers 6 deep or 5 deep? If the Warriors move on, or the Sixers or the Celtics, it's like you don't need necessarily, outside of injury risk, you don't need 7, 8 deep in the playoffs in the NBA in 2023.
Well, that's another reason.
Win with 6.
That's another reason to be down the Lakers, though. You looked at the game yesterday. Yes, they beat Golden State. Is not what they used to be, by the way. They were strengthened. They were strengthened numbers with a bunch of players. They had Spates. They had Iguodala. They had Livingston. They had.
They also had Draymond Green. They had Draymond Green, where he could legitimately give them 15 every night.
Yeah,
if Draymond Green scores more than 8, if Draymond Green scores more than 8 points in a night, it's a fuck.
Yeah, his offense production has dropped over the years. His 3-point shooting has gotten worse, and that's been a big part that's hurt them. Another part that hurt them is they paid Jordan Poole, and I think he got 4 years, like $128 million, and he's averaged about 3 points. He's averaged roughly 3 points a game in the last 3 games. Steve Kerr played in 10 minutes last night, and
it's not good.
And I mean, you can't have a guy that you're investing that much dang money into with 10 points a game. And the other problem is Jordan Poole is a small guard, and he's playing next to Curry, who is another small guard. Neither one of them are going to make first-team All-NBA D ever. So the Warriors are a deeply flawed team. They, rightfully so, gave up those strength in numbers to take on KD's salary and somehow kept Iguodala. But now that KD's gone, they never really replaced those strength in numbers. So what I'm saying is the Lakers are beating a flawed team in the Warriors, and they don't get to the paint. The free throw differential. Lakers get to the free throw more than anybody else, and the Warriors don't get to the free throw, or it gets the free throw the least amount of time. So that difference in the first 3 games was 44 free throws in the first 3 games between the Lakers and the Warriors. Lakers were shooting more, but you say he only doesn't matter if he goes 6, 7 deep. LeBron doesn't bring it for 48 anymore. He has to be selective, and he came out of the game.
Well, LeBron load manages in the game. He took off the entire first quarter the other night, still put up 35, but he put in 40 minutes for the game and just basically took the first quarter off.
But the problem is when you play that switch, though. When you get to a certain age, whether a guy gets lazy, Shaq, or a guy's just getting older and he's trying to manage himself, you turn that light off and on. You turn it off and on. Eventually, you go to turn it on, and it doesn't go on. And so he's got to be careful with that, because that's the next step. First, you got to manage when you can go and when you can't go, and eventually you get to the point where you can't turn it on the way you used to. And he's not sitting in the chair on defense. He isn't getting his butt down. His knees aren't close. His hips aren't close to parallel with those knees when he's on D. And he walks back on defense. So I'm not a LeBron fan, but that championship team they had was so much better offensively than what they have now.
Well, I'm not a LeBron fan. The fact that you have me sitting here defending LeBron makes me feel like a crazy person. Like, what are your thoughts on it, Q?
What did Jokic do to you? That's what I want to know. I mean, he must have lost you a lot of money. That's all I gotta say, because you really don't like this guy. But let's just jump into some of these series.
Yes.
Like, you've already talked a good amount about Golden State, LA. So it seems like you think LA is going to close that out.
I think Golden State's probably a good pick to win one Pride game, but
yeah,
it's really as simple as the Lakers are getting better shots than the Warriors, and the Warriors shoot too many dang threes when they don't need to. Steph shot that 3 with the game on the line. It was a 1-point game. You don't need to shoot a 3. Klay Thompson shot a quick 3 towards the very end, and it was not a good shot. And it's like these guys are married to the 3-point line. Klay's, since that ACL injury too, his field goal percentage was above 45% for like 4 or 5 consecutive years. Since that ACL injury, his field goal percent below 45% for both seasons since then. Now his 3-point percent is about the same, but what it tells you is you don't have to be very athletic to shoot a three. You jump and you shoot in three. But to your field goal percent to drop, you're shooting twos, you're in the paint, you got to be a little bit more athletic. His field goal percent's dropping there. And so that ACL, he isn't even cutting the same way he used to. He used to be constant motion. He can still move, don't get me wrong, but it's not what it used to be. That their time is fading out on those three. And unlike what the Spurs had with as Robinson was getting older and as Duncan was getting older, Manu and Parker and Leonard emerged, I don't see people emerging for Golden State. This is kind of looking like the end of the line. And the big mistake they made was in the draft when they drafted James Wiseman, number 2, over LaMelo Ball. Now, LaMelo Ball has been injured, but how perfect would that have been if they had LaMelo Ball, a 6'7" point guard who can handle, get Steph off the ball. Now you got Steph and Clay working off the ball again. And if you play too hard of them off the screen, those two guys that are screening, they can cut to the rim. You got a big defender at 6'7" in LaMelo Ball who can also cross match with Steph, So, with whoever they're guarding. But they didn't, and they traded Wiseman for, I think, like 3 second-round picks or something stupid like that. They gave it up for just about nothing. So that's a mistake that haunts them. For Philly, look at the series they're in. They picked Markelle Fultz and
over Jason Tatum.
Think about that. Talk about the process. Imagine that if they would have had Jason Tatum there.
They would be far and away the best team in the league right now with Jason Tatum and Joel Embiid.
That would be so ridiculous.
Who could they have had instead of Ben Simmons too?
Yeah. Well, Ben Simmons.
Who was that draft? Probably. I don't think anybody in the top 5. I think
was that a weak one.
I mean, but Ben Simmons was also like good for them. He just refused to shoot the ball, but like
he just regressed
he was
so
a
much.
premier talent, and they got James Harden for him, so it's like
they got Harden for him, so it's not 1 for 1. But I was just curious if there was anyone in like at number 2, 3, 4 in that draft. I want like they're shooting themselves.
Ben Simmons went number 1 to Philadelphia. Brandon Ingram went number 2 to the Lakers. Jaylen Brown went number 3, and that's really
maybe
where
Jaylen Brown.
Yep,
but
Jamal Murray at number 7.
But even looking at that top 7, it's like Ben Simmons early in his career. I mean, he was one of the best players in the league.
You couldn't have foreseen that he would become. It's almost like Charles Barkley swinging a golf club. It's like it became such a mental block. It's like what's going on here? What's wrong?
I mean, up until recent history, I would still take Ben Simmons over all those guys.
Yeah, and he's
you can't say like
it is kind of funny though that they could have Tatum and Brown.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty.
When Danny Ainge was just sitting there, just stacking picks, like, I'll take 3rd overall, I'll take 4th overall, I'll take 2nd overall, I'll take 7th overall, and they go get Marcus Smart, they go get Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and just build a squad and keep all of them. I mean, the Spurs wanted to give him Kawhi, and they didn't want to give up Jaylen Brown. They didn't want to give up Marcus Smart. They didn't want to give up Jason Tatum. They're like, we're going to ride with these guys, but they also haven't won anything. So, what does it really matter if 10 years down the road you're like, they made a lot of Eastern Conference Finals, they made a couple of Finals appearances, but they never won? Like, did they really win those drafts? Like, yeah, it was fun. You had a good time, but until you win something, you haven't really won anything.
And I think it's interesting because it's a fair question. Because I fight with it too. Like Boston, you look at them; they've made the conference finals or better. Because last year they made the NBA finals 4 out of the last 6 seasons. So if you're a Bulls fan like me, yes, I would take that in a heartbeat. If I'm a Bears fan too, so I look at the Buffalo Bills, but to me, it's almost like the conference finals is fine because you're not too close to where it hurts so bad. But like to be a Buffalo Bills fan and make 4 straight Super Bowls and lose 4, I don't know if I could take that dang heartbreak. I think it's almost better to be conference finals and out than make it that to the big show 4 times in a row. I'd go crazy.
You look at the year that Toronto won the finals with Kawhi Leonard. That was the year that it was. I think it was Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and a first round pick for Kawhi Leonard. And let's say Kawhi Leonard goes over there with Jason Tatum, and they win it that year with Kawhi Leonard. Do you take that knowing you don't have Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown on your team? Or would you rather still, to this day, have the future of Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum 4 years later, still haven't won anything, but you still have the potential moving forward to possibly maybe win something someday? Or would you rather already have the ring and still have Jason Tatum and be like, we have one of the best 7 players in the league. We can build around this guy. It sucks that we lost 2 really good guys, but like, it's Boston. It's a big market. We can get guys in here. Like, I still think like them not making that, pulling the trigger on that Spurs trade with Kawhi Leonard. Not saying he would have won, but like he was pretty unstoppable that playoff run. I mean,
you take a championship whenever you can get one.
That's my.
I think that's an easy answer.
Now,
like that's you take the.
Now,
ring.
I think that holds true, especially for a team like Toronto. They're not going to get a bunch of guys in free agents to say, "Hey, let's go to Toronto." You know. Now, if you're Los Angeles, if you're Miami, more of a high in demand team come free agency, you might entertain the thought of being cute and prolonging your window because you can get guys free agency and you can rebuild and restore a lot easier. But especially if you are a low market team in a not so hot city, you take the dang championship when you can get it. And bringing up that championship, interesting. The Bucks fired Mike Budenholzer.
Hold up, yeah. One more thing that's hilarious. Yeah. Like Philly fans will love this. Basically, had a deal done with Philly for who was that? He was a 6'7" shooting guard for Philly a couple years ago, and he bounced around the league since then. Taller guy with Joel Embiid. He went on to
I think I know
New Orleans afterwards.
We're his name.
Jimmy Butler.
No. I wish it was Jimmy.
They
Butler.
should have made that work.
It was the other guy they had. It was him, Jimmy Butler, and Embiid. Their big 3.
Tobias Harris.
So
yeah, he's still there.
He's still there.
He's still in.
Oh, is he still there?
Yeah, he's still there.
Okay. But so they had the trade with the Spurs, and it was basically a done deal. Tobias Harris, I think, a lower name guy, and Markelle Fultz. And Philly wouldn't give up Markelle Fultz for Kawhi Leonard. And that's the reason why the trade didn't go through with Philly. So it was Boston not wanting to get rid of Jaylen Brown, Philly not wanting to get rid of Markelle Fultz. And then, of all things, it was Toronto that said, we'll include Jakob Poeltl in the trade, who just this year is now back in Toronto.
Dear Lord.
And that's the reason why the Toronto trade happened, because they said, we'll include Jakob Poeltl with DeMar DeRozan and whoever else they sent with it. But that was the Jakob Poeltl was the Jaylen Brown or the Markelle Fultz of the worlds, basically, during that trade process.
But I can't get over how 3 of the 4 last NBA head coaches that won championships have been fired. Nick Nurse, Frank Vogel, Mike Budenholzer.
Well, yeah, you say 3 out of the last 4, but I mean,
Steve Kerr is the other one.
3 of the last 8, so
it's ridiculous. Well, especially for like Milwaukee, Budenholzer. It's not his fault that Giannis got injured, and
but they've underperformed quite a few times. I mean, they should have at least been competing for NBA Finals at least more than going to one Finals, and they had some injury luck in that Finals as well with Phoenix. So
and you got Frank Vogel, and I thought he was a scapegoat for Russell Westbrook being put onto that team. And Nick Nurse, I mean, it's the only championship I just think it's interesting that you can win a championship and then you're replaceable. Because teams, the players, they go through cycles, right? You have your run, you have your window, and it closes. The unique thing is you have a coach, and your lifespan as a coach is so much greater and longer. I don't see what's wrong with letting a coach rebuild a team. Now, if you've had it and you feel like
when you look at the NBA today, and let's say we're taking Greg Popovich out of the equation, we're taking Eric Spoelstra out of the equation, and we're taking Steve Kerr out of the equation. Who in the league right now, coaching wise, is more valuable than a top flight player?
Oh, like, nobody.
Would you rather have Giannis or Budenholzer?
Oh, the players run the league. The stars run the league, and there's just no doubt about that.
There's maybe 3 coaches in the league that, no matter what happens, like Pat Riley, like Spoelstra has solidified. Like, I think Spoelstra is probably the best coach in the league right now. With Steve Kerr, I think Steve Kerr's right there with him, and then Pop is in the top 3 greatest of all time. So I mean, he's on his own time now. So I mean, but outside of those 3, it's like, why would you have any respect towards a coach rather than a player?
I'll take the guy who got me there than trying to take a guy and believe he can get me there, though, is if I'm management is what I'm saying. And the players are going to be more valuable than the coach, but the players also have a shorter lifespan in this NBA than the coaches will. I just think it's interesting that you can win a championship and next thing you know, you're replaceable. LA, you can get away with that because they're always going to get the stars. Like Shaq's going to come to LA, LeBron's going to come to LA, and guess what?
But let's say you had
coming.
If you had a better coach in Milwaukee, like, do they win more than one with Giannis's run and Chris Middleton there and Drew Holiday there and Brook Lopez there? It's like, maybe they should have had more success than they did. Like, they had some good regular season success. Giannis had back-to-back MVPs. And then you look at all that, you're like, we had one title, and they were up against the wall in Phoenix, and it took a couple of nagging injuries for him to win the title. I mean, let's say Chris Paul doesn't miss Game 4 of that series, and then didn't their point guard Booker miss a game or 2 in that series too? And then Milwaukee won in 7. It was like, it took everything going their way for them to even win that.
Well,
Can I just take a second to shout out our dude Alan Adams? I hope he's enjoying his hot Cheetos and his Rockstar Energy and his pizza.
My name is Alan Adams. We said Miami hate playoffs 2023. My name is Alan Adams. We said,
I hope he's enjoying those hot Cheetos and the Rockstar. It sounds like a good combo.
Blight. My name Alan Adams. He said, my team Miami hate good.
Hey.
Get you some, Alan Adams. I just wanted to shout him out.
I can't tell if he's a Miami fan or he hates Miami.
Hey, they're going to beat the Knicks. That's for dang sure.
Maybe he's both.
But, all right. So, talk a little playoffs. Let's say I'm taking Denver out of the equation. Who's winning the championship? Because I'm not gonna accept a Denver Nuggets censor here. I mean,
I can't say
it's not
Denver
gonna happen.
Nuggets. Okay, so I'm pretending that Jokic is out and injured, and they fall apart, and they can't.
No, Jokic is going to be completely healthy this whole time.
I'll pick a second team. I'm telling you, Denver's my pick. But
heard it here first.
Well, it's Denver, Phoenix, Philly, or Boston, and obviously that's going up front.
Yeah, Jay, why the
I don't think Phoenix is deep enough. I really don't. I think.
All right, Grease Carrot. What? All right, Grease Carrot. You want to come on here and tell me why Nikola Jokic can get it done?
I love carrots. Carrots are the way to go. You tell them. Yeah.
Denver is champ.
Give me Boston. Even though they're down.
So
Boston. If I can't go
how do
Denver.
you see that playing out in the East? How do you see it playing out in the East?
Whoever wins Celtics Sixers is going.
Miami beats New York because New York they're dysfunctional. They're not good. It's the Knicks.
Hey, but they threw a parade for every playoff win they had, all 5 of them.
Yep, and they can get a beam like the Kings and they'll still suck. So Miami's going to advance, and whoever wins between Philly and Boston, because that's your real Eastern Conference championship, they're making it to the finals. I'm taking Boston still, even though they're down 3-2, and they might break my heart. But I like Boston, and I don't trust James Harden. And out west, Lakers will take care of Golden State because Golden State takes silly shots, and they don't have they don't have enough depth. Denver's going to take care of Phoenix, and then give me Denver over LA, and give me a Denver-Boston NBA Finals. Though if I'm wrong on that, it's probably Philly making it to the finals instead of Boston, with them being up 3-2. But that's the two scenarios I see playing out.
Yeah,
give me the LA Lakers versus the Boston Celtics. The chase for 20. As a casual NBA fan who's a big Spurs fan who has no real horse in this race, give me the chase for 20. Give me Boston. Give me the Lakers. Give me LeBron versus the rising phenom and Jason Tatum. Give it all to me. And if that's not the case, let me watch the 76ers, the city of Philadelphia, lose not only the Super Bowl, not only the World Series, but let's see them lose a freaking finals to the Lakers, and let's get LeBron another ring.
What did Denver do to you, man? They're bad ski accident or something?
They're frauds, is what they are. I mean, you can ask Quentin. I can sniff a rat.
You putting the fraud stamp out?
I can sniff a rat from a mile away. And they're just a bunch of rats. Like, I'll be shocked if they even get out of the second round against Phoenix.
Well, Q said something, because we're talking about finals matchups, and Q said something to me, which is so true. He said, I just love to see Philly versus Denver, Jokic versus Giannis. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
The
Nuggets. Suns.
I always take Chris's advice for like futures finals bets. I put it in on Denver. I put it in on Boston. But I was like, I got to put it on Philly just because the idea of Jokic versus Embiid in the finals I'd love to see that.
Yeah. Boston and Philly are so damn close. You're talking one loose ball, one shot. And by the way, what the hell was Jaylen Brown doing giving up that 3 in Game 4 to James Harden?
It's Jason Tatum.
Was it Jason Tatum? I thought it was Jaylen Brown who went.
No, Jason Tatum drove the basket, and then instead of taking the shot, threw it out. And are you talking about the overtime shot?
I'm talking about the shot that Harden hit the 3 in regulation.
Yeah, where he came off there. Jaylen Brown came off of Harden to double team Embiid in the paint. Then Embiid tossed it out to Harden, and then Jaylen Brown after the game said it was the worst mistake he's ever made in the game of basketball.
The problem with it is not the double. It's okay. Play with it. I'm going to give you a nice sports diagram right here. Embiid's in the middle. You got Harden in the corner, and Brown's guarding him. No one else is on this side of the court. On the other side are the other 3 defenders. One of those guys on that side needs to double because you can rotate because you got 2 other guys over there. Yeah. Instead, you use the former NBA MVP, the guy who's got a trillion shots made, you double off him.
So the Celtics had one of the best coaches in the league, and he just decided he wanted to go up to upper management. And then they hired another really good coach after that, and then he was having quote-unquote sexual relations with people in the building, and now they're on their 3rd guy in 4 years who's as far as coaches go in the playoffs right now, he's probably the worst coach in the playoffs. Like two of the 3 games they've lost to Philly have been basically solely due to coaching, whether it's coaching decisions, timeout decisions, basically Philly or Boston should have already won this series, and they've lost 2 games basically on coaching alone, not making the right decisions late in the game.
You can't lose game 1 without Joel Embiid in that game. You cannot lose that game. In a game where the
Celtics shot 76% from the field, they lost to the 76ers while shooting 76% from the field without the MVP on the other team. You can't lose that game.
To go over to football, Bill Belichick don't let the other team's best player beat you. What I love what he does is he'll take and double team the other team's best wide receiver, and then he'll take his number one corner and he'll put it on your number two. So now your number one's doubled and your number two's having trouble because it's number two. So without Embiid in the game, you just gotta say, James Harden, you can't beat us.
Yeah.
You can't beat us tonight. And guess what happened? He beat him, not only in game 1 and in game 4. And so it kills me, but I look at Boston and I love their roster because they got so much talent at the guard and at the wing. Jason Tatum, and this is in order of their scoring rankings for
And
this
Garrett Williams is a good big.
Yep, they get Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon, who they've added, Derek White, who's second team all defense he just made.
That's
And
pretty
then you
good.
got Al Horford, who never ages. He's 38 and he's playing like he's 28. I love their roster. I love their depth. I love that it's guard oriented, but man, talk about
Derek White's still a Spur, so that's cool.
yeah,
That's
let's
first
take
go.
it. But yeah, it's Lakers finish out Golden State. Golden State might be good for one game on pride, but they're not overcoming 3-1.
So it's either gonna be the Lakers beating the 76ers or the Lakers losing to Boston, is what you're saying?
The Lakers are making the NBA Finals.
I
I'm
might
gonna say
have
again,
to.
the Lakers are not making the NBA Finals.
Don't bet it. Save your money. I'm telling no.
Okay,
And the 3-1 for those people that want to say goals. Yeah,
we've been. I just want to give an update.
I'll say it with my
I
chest.
I know at halftime I said we had a tie ball game for Suns Denver at halftime, and I was saying the Denver might not win another game. They're up 34 right now, so
Michael Porter Jr.
that they might win this game and go up 3-2.
Hey, it's all good. Hey,
No guarantees. They're only up 30.
for those people that
Hey.
like to,
I respect it. You didn't need to tell everyone that, but you did. And I respect it.
I appreciate. I'll say for all those people out there that want to find some sick symmetry, and Lakers came, LeBron came back from 3-1 against Golden State. Now Golden State's going to come back from 3-1 against LeBron. They're not. 277
What if they do
times.
though?
They don't have enough. They don't have it.
That's what they said about the Cavs team.
No.
And all of a sudden they did it.
The difference is the Cavs could get the better shot.
That's what they said about the Chicago Cubs. They're like, oh, we got Corey Kluber pitching. There ain't no way he's gonna give up Game 6. All of a sudden, Corey Kluber gives up 5 in the first, and they're deep into the rotation in the 4th inning. And then you have a live Cubs team in Game 7. Hey, man,
I'll give you
you
this.
never know.
I'll give you this. You can't.
That was straight from heaven, Jay. That was straight
The
from
great thing about
I
sports,
said,
I'll give you this.
That
You
was the
can't-
same year too.
You know what? We were talking about betting earlier. They say it's a lock. There is no such thing as a lock. And so I'll give you that. In sports, anything can happen. But statistically, in game 4, after a team is down 3-1, 277 times it's happened. A team drops down 3-1. Only 13 times, 4.6% of the time, does a team come back from down 3-1 to win. So you're taking 4.6% out.
Hold on, 4.6%. If you took
4.6.
every single player in NBA history, where does Steph Curry rank percentage-wise? Top 1%. So Steph Curry, top 1% best player of all time, best players of all time. Like, and then you put that in the 4.6% range, then all of a sudden that might go up to like 17.6%.
But
And
let's
all of a
say
sudden you got a live dog.
4.6% divided by 1% is like 400 something percent. So
Oh look, they
that's math.
they're basically guaranteed. They're basically guaranteed to beat the Lakers and be playing the Phoenix Suns in the Western Conference Finals.
you're saying like 846 percent.
Cupcake, check the math for us. Math checks out. Math is mathing. Math is mathing there.
Well,
So we're gonna have Golden State Warriors versus Phoenix Suns in the Western Conference Finals. We're gonna have the Celtics versus the Heat, and then we're gonna have Celtics versus Suns, and Katie's gonna get it done one more time.
All right, before we close out, we'll let Chris give his version.
Miami beats New York. It's not sexy, but it's what I think's going to happen. I'd love to tell you some great upset. There's not that. This isn't March Madness. It's not one game. Usually the better team wins. 4 out of 7. It's not as sexy, but Miami's beating New York. Give me Boston over Philly, but my chest isn't out on that because they gave up a couple games and Harden's looking good lately. But
They're down 3-2.
I'm sticking with what I picked. I'm sticking with Boston over Philly. But I will say, I mean, it's between those two out east. Give me Denver out west. Give me Denver out west. Give me Denver out west. If I have to pick a second, give me Phoenix. And I don't want Golden State's done, and I don't even want to talk about the Lakers because they're too flawed as a team. They're too flawed as a team. They're winning in spite of the fact that Memphis was offensively completely inept, and they're winning because against Golden State in large part because they can't get to the dang free throw line, and they can't get into the paint. They're another flawed team. I think when they come against a complete team in Denver, or an even a less complete team but a better team yet than Golden State and Phoenix, I think they're done, and I think they're exposed.
So you got Denver versus Boston in the finals. Who wins?
Yep. And if I have to go for number 2, Boston versus Philly, and those are the two.
Boston versus Philly are currently playing.
No, excuse me. I mean Denver versus Philly. If it's not Denver versus Boston, those are the
so Denver, Boston in the finals. Who wins?
Give me Denver.
Okay, so who? Now that you said that, who wins the Super Bowl this year? Because I want to make sure I stay far away from that team.
Who's your favorite team?
The Cowboys.
Cowboys.
Tell me the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl. I'll eat that up.
Cowboys.
I'll eat that up, boy.
It says Texas too. How about them
Let's
Cowboys?
go. We win the Super Bowl. Yeah, I mean, my confidence of the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl is the same confidence as your Denver winning the championship. So I get it. I know where you're coming from. It's like everything's there. It should happen. I don't see how it can't happen. And then it just never happens. It doesn't happen. Now that we brought up the football aspect of it, I get it. I
Denver's going to make the conference finals and all. When's the last time the Cowboys made the conference finals?
We're not talking about the Cowboys right now.
We just were.
No. It's championship or bust. How many times has the Green Bay Packers made the conference finals?
Hey, you're right. I subscribe to the second
finals don't matter.
Winner. I completely agree with that.
Conference finals don't matter. Bears made a Super Bowl. I bet against them. The very first bet of my life was betting on the Colts against the Bears. And the dude, Cody Stiegel. Still to this day, Cody Stiegel owes me $50. He never paid me. Eighth grade art class. The dude transferred schools and never paid me. So if you're listening to this, Cody Stiegel, you still owe me $50.
If the teams are even close to comparable, who's got the best
interest? At least 15,000.
Wait, what was that, Chris?
If the teams are comparable, who's got the better star, especially in football at the quarterback? And you can't compare Peyton Manning and Rex Grossman. So I mean, that's a great
Sexy
bet.
Rexy had a cannon. Sexy Rexy don't give no fucks. And they also
that's the problem. He doesn't get if it's double coverage or triple coverage. He don't give a. He's gonna launch.
It wasn't even comparing star to star. I mean,
release the dragon.
The Bears started the game 7-0, but
as
soon as the game kicked off, they were up 7-0. It's like,
hey, well, their coach, I'm brain farting. Help me out, coach.
Lovey or
Dungy. He said before the game, he said we're not kicking the Hester. We're not kicking the Hester. And right before the game, you know what? We're kicking to him. He kicked to the score touchdown. Then after he scored, he said we're not kicking to him anymore. So he changed it right before the game. He decided, we're going to be tough in the big macho move. Yeah. And then after he scored, he said, forget that. We're done with that. But no, I
don't think there's ever been a bigger nuts on your table move in the entire history of the NFL than kicking to quite possibly the greatest return man of all time. And then that same guy knowing that's like, this might be the only ball I get all night, taking it to the house.
How does he not?
That play alone should like go down in history as like sports psychology, sports science, like down to the greatest detail. You have on one side you have like we're not scared to kick it to the best in the game, and then the other side it's like this might be the only ball I get tonight, and I have to do something with it. And that climaxing on the opening kickoff is one of the greatest sports moments of all time, bar none.
And the game ended.
Yeah. And then we just watched it go like sands through the hourglass.
Well,
We're like, no, we're running out.
I was right. No, the game was over. It was like,
You-
well, Bears won the Super
You
Bowl.
also had a
Turn this off.
you also had a Bears team that just neglected to guard Reggie Wayne. So it's like what
Well,
top 25 greatest receivers of all time. Just like we'll get him next. We'll get him next time.
Hey, don't you dare put this on that defense.
well,
Don't you
we had
dare.
Cedric Benson.
If it wasn't for that touchdown, what happens?
We had Cedric Benson fumble in the game too.
That was a third
Instead,
day.
and when Thomas Jones should have
Rex
the one the
Gross
whole
with two
time running the ball.
interceptions.
Hey, when you talk about Cedric Benson, you say RIP because we live in Midland, Texas around here. This man is a legend.
I get it,
This man
and
is a
RIP,
legend
no
in
doubt.
West Texas.
But I'm just saying, from pure
Four
football,
straight state championships for Midland Lee, which is now Midland Legacy because Lee is
to
apparently
quote my high school
canceled.
basketball coach and PE teacher, he told me, he's like, Cedric Jones, they have questions about his motor and his engine and stuff. And Thomas Jones, you know what he puts down as his favorite hobby, working out. And we couldn't get over the fact that Thomas Jones should have been the featured running.
I don't know why you're focusing on this when you drafted Mitchell Trubisky when you could have had Patrick Mahomes.
And we had
Because he drove-
biscuits.
Because he drove an 08 Toyota Camry. It's like, come on now.
Hey, you know what? We got Fields now. We got
Nobody
a
really
right tackle.
nobody talks about the fact that they took Mitchell Trubisky when they could have had Mahomes.
Well,
Nobody
Yeah,
ever
they'll bring
brings it up.
every
You know,
Sunday night
and
game
not that-
throughout that whole time.
and obviously not like it's a good thing that happened, but with Deshaun Watson and all that stuff that went on, it kind of made that pick of Mitch not look as bad because you look at that and you're like, did you really want that with your organization? I'm
I didn't even
glad.
bring up Deshaun Watson. Could have had Patrick Mahomes.
Well,
Yep.
it,
And even if you did take
wish in
if
one
you-
hand and in the other, right? I mean,
you-
we're just glad we
you-
got Fields and we got
Yeah.
somebody who looks like he can become something.
even if you did have Watson and he sexually assaulted every single person in Chicago,
That's
still
awesome.
got 5 first-round picks out of him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's worked out great for the Texans.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd
they have
rather.
the draft
I'll
this
be
year.
honest. I'd rather suck as a franchise than have that.
the Texans just got the best quarterback in the draft and the best defensive player in the draft and back-to-back picks because of Deshaun Watson.
I agree. I like Strode over Bryce Young.
I didn't say they had a bad draft. I just said it's really worked out for them.
It has
It has.
worked out for him more than Mitchell Trubisky to the Bears.
Well, we went the other route. We didn't get
Probably.
a good return for him. But what we ended up doing is we went to tank mode, and that tank mode has got us where we are right now, the number 1 pick, which we trade for a lot more assets than what Houston. Well, that would be a
Not
good
even
comparison.
close.
That would be
No,
a good comparison.
Houston got way more for Deshaun Watson than Young
think
got
they
for
got-
the first-round pick.
If you told it all up,
Yeah,
how many
I
number
think
one?
they got
How many picks do they get?
they got 3 number 1s
3?
and 2 number 2s.
And we got what we ended
So
with.
that's,
We got
we got 2 number 1s, DJ Moore, and 2 number 2s.
two number 2s. And the only way we'll be able to tell is
I'll take
when all the
Cleveland's
picks
picks
come in
over
and we
that.
can evaluate
Yeah,
who
more.
got what out of it. Honestly, is we gotta look at the players in 5-10 years down the road and what they became,
Yeah.
and then we can. But that was all I'm saying is though, like with Mitch, we didn't get things directly through a trade. He wasn't worth crap. But through tanking, we got the number 1 pick, so he did
But you
kind
could
of.
have had Patrick Mahomes.
It wouldn't have been what it's been in Kansas City, anyways, though, because we don't have Andy Reid.
Don't you spit on Patrick Mahomes' name like that.
Andy Reid
he would've
doesn't
been
hurt Patrick
fine.
Mahomes.
Ain't nobody messing that dude up. That dude's a freaking rocket ship to outer space. I mean, if anything, Randy Reid's holding him back. He
Well,
might
put
have already won 3 championships.
Put him
if
to
he went
Cleveland, he could have
Chicago.
been messed up a million times over. That's where
If he-
quarterbacks come
All
die.
right.
If he went to Chicago,
right.
he'd already have
That's
3
enough
rings.
troll. That's enough trolling. We are way off course here. I think we're
We
wrapping
chased
up,
our
right,
rabbit.
guys?
Yeah, I think that's it. All right, so
And to Grease Carrot, I do not know on the Broncos yet. I am setting it up next month. We should be going through every team schedule, but I need to see the schedule before I can decide on a record.
Broncos are gonna go 9-7 and barely miss the playoffs.
That sounds realistic.
I think Russell Wilson's gonna be a lot better than he was last year. I think their defense is gonna regress just slightly, but Kansas City's still gonna be a wagon. Chargers are gonna get better, and you still have a really, really good Oakland team there with a new quarterback and a revamped defense, and it's gonna be hard to win games for Denver. And so I think 9-7. I think they're gonna have a lot of close games. I think their point differential will probably be around plus 47 at the end of the season, and they'll go 9-7 and just barely miss the playoffs. But I have a lot to look forward to moving forward.
That the toughest division in the league.
By far.
Yeah, I don't think it's close.
Yep.
But I think that does it for us, right, guys?
I think
Sounds
so.
good, man. Thank you guys. It was fun.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for
You
coming
know I
on,
love
Chris.
you. I wasn't trying to.
Yeah, you're good. I'm gonna send you some
I
chicken
just
nuggets
like
for
to
you.
argue.
Since you're a Nuggets fan, I'm gonna send you some nuggets.
Dude, I love nuggets.
That's
I ate a
the
lot of
reason
chicken
you love the
nuggets.
nuggets alone, right there. Come on.
Ah,
Who doesn't
man.
like a good chicken nugget?
They're named after gold nuggets, so send me a couple of nuggets of pure gold, and I'll be
Sweet and
I'll be
sour,
more than
hot
happy.
mustard. It can be fun.
All right, man. You take it easy, brother.
All
So
right,
good
man.
to have you on, man. Always a pleasure, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right.